week, Orym reunites with his family, Fern comes in clutch during a battle, and Matt reminds us all why it's important to practice saying our made-up words out loud.
Urge to just kill a beloved NPC right now.
Hello, my name is Luna, and I'm here to catch you up on everything that happens in Critical Role, including all of the details you may have missed, so let's get into it. They arrive in Zephyrah, Orym's home, and the home of the Air Ashari, led by Keyleth. As a bit of a refresher, the Ashari are a druidic society that watches over elemental rifts across Exandria. There's an earth, water, fire, and air Ashari, and they are the descendants of the Galdrashari, who were a druidic order that existed during the Age of Arcanum. The leaders of each sect of the Ashari must undertake what is known as an Aramente, where they go on a quest to seek out and learn from the other Ashari elders until they're able to assume the mantle of leadership. Keyleth was completing her Aramente whilst adventuring with Vox Machina in Campaign 1. As they are standing there looking over Zephyrah, some sky dancers, Ashari warriors that ride the winds on sky sails, approach them, creating a magical gust of wind that sends half of Belzhul sliding towards the edge of the cliff. The sky dancers land and immediately recognize Orym, standing down and greeting him. In particular, one of those sky dancers is Orym's sister, Maeve.
You see the long blonde hair that ends in a bulb-like tie with a woven burst of red flowers, kind of tether that flows behind. You see the kind of gentle leather breastplate or so, and the long flowing robe that goes from behind Maeve. Rushes up to you and goes, Orym?
I just leap and go into full hug.
As you leap towards her, she kind of gestures with her hand, and the wind kind of buffets you a little bit so you don't tackle her with all of your strength, and she kind of catches you like, oh. Hey, oh my goodness. Hey. It's good to see you. You see this half-elven woman, about 30s or so, kind of leaning down on one knee and kind of giving this smile of surprise and welcomeness towards Orym.
Sorry, guys, this is my sister.
Sister? What?
Orym introduces the group, and Maeve apologizes for the way that they were greeted. It's pretty clear that things have been tense here in Zephyrah, and everyone is kind of jumpy. The town has been impacted by the shifting ley lines, with some of their protective wards ceasing to work, as well as some of the enchantments, like those on their sky sails, needing to be redone. Communications are also down, with them unable to use sending, and we also learn later that the Air Ashari lost around 24 people in the Malleus Key attack, and that combined with Keyleth's, lack of healing, it's no surprise that morale is low. Maeve shares that she was at the Malleus Key site during the attack, and that when everything went white, she was someone who was left behind while others were teleported away. Orym asks after his mother and mother-in-law, and she says that they're doing okay, and it's at this point that FCG asks Orym to clarify his family tree because it is a little confusing.
My husband's parents are Derek, was Derek, and Nell.
And Nell.
Sister-in-law.
Okay. Their daughter is Maeve?
Triplets.
Triplets.
Oh.
She's one of the triplets?
Yeah.
Oh, and your husband was a triplet?
No, he was their younger brother.
Got it.
So it's Lita, who is the Tempest's sort of right-hand woman.
That's one of the trips?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just met Maeve, and then there's Barney still.
Barney still?
Barney.
Barney.
Barney still.
Why I gotta.
Barney.
My mom's name is Alma.
Is what? Who?
Alma.
Alma.
Okay, that's your mama.
That's my mom.
Do you have any blood sisters or brothers or siblings?
Mm-mm.
No.
Wait, do we know about your dad? No.
You do.
I do.
She's
private.
asking on behalf
It's
of
private.
us.
Orym also clarifies that his dad isn't in his life anymore, and he counted Derek as his father. Derek is actually a past character of Liam's that he played in the one-shot Dalen's Closet. Derek was the former Master of Defense, but was of course tragically killed along with his son and Orym's husband Will in the Ruby Vanguard's attack on Zephyrah 7 years ago. Maeve escorts them to see Keyleth, and they arrive at a central building which sort of has a very natural aesthetic feel. It's sort of made up of multiple clay huts with this sort of large swath of fabric stretched over them, and lots of flower boxes and smooth stone paths. I've been playing a lot of Zelda lately, and I don't know, I just got a lot of Zelda vibes from this village, especially with the sky sails, and using your little paraglider. We meet another of Orym's sisters, Lita, who has succeeded her father in the role of Master of Defense. We later learn that she was also at the Malleus Key site and was left there after everything went white. She and the other Ashara warriors fell back immediately, managing to get Keyleth out. After the whiteout, both Ludinus and Liliana were gone. Lita also saw the Rylora, who appeared to be in league with the Vanguard, but they did not speak and she was not there for long, so she doesn't really have any other information. And speaking of the Rylora, thank you to everyone who left theories about them and Predathos in my last video. I'm going to talk about all your different theories in a video coming out next week, so stay tuned for that, and of course, keep leaving those theories in the comments. Lita shows them into Keyleth's room, which is described as having several tapestries. One of these depicts a red dragon being followed by a bird. This is Thordak in a moment when Vax was following. The other is of a titan over a crushed metropolis, which is an event that occurs quite late at the end of Campaign 1.
Immense entity standing hundreds and hundreds of feet tall. A gigantic, bulky mass of jagged rock, slowly walking on two castle-width legs.
Belle's Hells get their first in-person view of Keyleth, and her wounds have not healed at all. Like, she still has open wounds. It's clear that she is in a lot of pain and is very weak. It was really hard seeing, like, Marisha's face during this moment. It must be so weird to just see your former character in that position and, like, not really able to do anything about it. I was chatting with some of you in the pre-critical role stream that I do over on Twitch, which you should totally come and join me for. They're really fun. It's every week. 5 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays on my Twitch channel. And I know that a lot of people thought that we might see members of Vox Machina with Keyleth in this episode, but I think their absence is explainable by the fact that sending is not working, and Keyleth confirms later that she's not strong enough to use her teleporting powers. So I'm sure that, like, everybody is sort of scrambling, trying to contact each other, but is just not able to. I do think we are going to see more members of Vox Machina, but it might not be for a while. Keyleth takes her staff and pushes herself upright, and Orym asks her what happened. She confirms that her wounds are due to the same toxin that was used by the Vanguard in that attack 7 years ago, and that the damage that she sustained at Odahan's blades is too great for her to heal. In that attack 7 years ago, she used an ointment made from a special flower.
I've sent a group to try and retrieve what is known as the blue perennium flower.
It gets a lot of sun. Just thrives with sunlight.
We searched the in-between us.
The sun has to be in the right time, part of the sky. It's a brief moment.
The flower? Is it?
Urge to just kill a beloved NPC right now.
As if she could.
I'd like to point out I've said nothing.
I know.
So the blue perennium flower, what is, where does it grow?
Nooks and crannies.
No, don't do it, please.
Only hurt him.
Coward.
And this is why we say things out loud before we bring them to the D&D table. Matt did later confirm that it was actually called a perineum flower, but he misspoke and said perineum, which, in case you are unaware, it means something very different. I feel so bad for the guy, but it was also just so funny. This moment will go down in history along with that NPC called Mike Hunt. Anyway, back to this flower. It only grows in cursed landscapes and is quite rare. The closest source of them is in the Grey Valley, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail later. Keyleth says that Maeve will be able to teleport them there via a tree. The flower has bright blue petals with black markings that resemble a screaming face, a little disturbing, and it can be used to make an ointment which will slowly heal the wounds created by the Vanguard's poison, although it's not able to bring back those who died of their wounds. Keyleth is actually worried that it might not be able to heal her wounds at all because they're so extensive, but it's still worth trying, especially as there are 3 others in the village who have injuries from the poison. Keyleth recently sent a team to retrieve some of these flowers, including one of Orym's sisters, Barini, but they are yet to return and she fears for their safety and also harbors some guilt that she's not strong enough to go on this quest herself. She asks Belle's Hells if they will go, both to collect the flowers and see if they can find the missing members of the Ashari. Orym asks Keyleth what the last thing she saw was, and...
Last thing that I saw. Before the light took us. Was someone important to me. Someone I lost long ago.
She saw Vax! Orym pledges to be her blade, and Keyleth vows to tear down Ludinus, Liliana, and Odahan. But FCG sort of says, well, I don't know, maybe not Liliana, looking towards Imogen, who still seems kind of conflicted about her mother. She acknowledges that her mother didn't stop the Malleus Key stuff from happening and does seem to be a believer in the cause, but she does wonder if Liliana was responsible for the whiteout that sent a bunch of people away. It is true that the only other time we've seen an event like that is when Imogen lost control in episode 32, so there might be a connection there. Maybe she was trying to protect people. Imogen psychically tells Orym that he should tell Keyleth what they saw, meaning the vision of Vax, but instead he tells Keyleth that Liliana and Imogen are related. Imogen's like, ooh. But Imogen does assure Keyleth that she's here to help, and Keyleth says, you know, if there's any sign of betrayal, there will be trouble. They actually don't end up telling her about that vision with Vax, which I'm kind of in mixed minds about. Like, I feel like she really should know, but also, is it really helpful for her to know? Like, what can she do about it? Orym opens up with Keyleth about his struggles lately.
I've been struggling with the blood in my eye for a few weeks now. I've never been so fucking angry. But it doesn't matter. Because it's still what needs to be done. Let my friends prove themselves to you in this. Let me prove myself to you in any way that you need. You've always told me that we're stronger if we stand together.
Always. Anger can be challenging. Can cloud your focus, your wisdom, lead to wanton impulse, and sometimes put those you care about in danger. But sometimes it's exactly what you need.
This whole conversation with Keyleth and Orym was very reminiscent of a conversation that Keyleth and Grog had when Keyleth was struggling with her anger.
You're able to utilize your rage when necessary. How do you keep it suppressed when it's not needed?
A good question.
Please enlighten me, Professor Grog.
Right, it all comes down to one word, really.
Yeah?
Family. Right, before I was a part of this group, I had no family. Pike took me in, I met all of you, and I had a purpose.
Yeah.
So before that, I would be down to fuck anything up at any time, no problem.
Sure.
I still kinda am.
Yeah.
But I realised that if I fly off the handle too soon, it screws over my family. And that's no good, because I care about you. Most of you. So for me, you're gonna get yours. It's coming. And I'm gonna help you, and I'm gonna high-five you when it's done. But until then, you keep that shit tucked inside. Let it build. And then when the time is right, you let her have it. And I'll throw you into the fray when the time is right.
Promise?
Yeah, I'll promise.
Deal.
Deal. Oh shit, sorry, I'm so sorry.
Keyleth then says that she has been angry for 30 years. It's been 30 years since Vax had to leave and become the champion of Ravens. They say goodbye to Keyleth, and on the way out, they speak with Lita again. Fern, potentially reading something in Lita's presentation after a big insight check, asks her if there is anyone in Zephyrah who she doesn't trust, who might be a mole. Lita says she doesn't want to entertain such a thought, as they all need to sort of stick together in times of trouble, but I think this is kind of naive, especially since we know that the Earthashari were infiltrated by a Ruby Vanguard, like cultist, at Terra. I do wonder if that's going to come up in the future in Zephyrah. It would make a lot of sense to me that the Vanguard would try and plant a spy there to sort of keep an eye on Keyleth's activities. The group also talk with Tholo, who tells them a little bit bit more about the Grey Valley and seems to know like quite a bit of general knowledge.
Get real nasty when we start having trivia nights.
Ashton asks what he knows about the Hashari, and he sort of knows the same general story that we've heard a few times now, that it was a cult that brought people in with sort of the promise of harnessing the power of the primordials that ended in a catastrophic event. He mentions that the people who survived that event sort of moved on and like didn't ever talk about it again. Ashton asks if he could research some of the names of those people while they're away, and Tholo agrees, so hopefully this will sort of be a bit of a lead for Ashton to follow later. Orym wants to go and see his mum, or his mother-in-law, Nell, but says he would rather wait until he returns with his sister, Birani. So instead, they go to visit his other mum, Alma. Orym's childhood home is a small, halfling-sized sort of cottagecore affair with a sign of a swaddled baby out the front, as Alma is a midwife. The two have a very sweet reunion.
Orym. Oh, Orym, come here, my boy. And like grabs him immediately and like picks him up as the shield kind of cling onto the ground next to him. Kind of,
Good to see you too.
Oh, my boy, it's so good to see you.
And Orym introduces everyone. They catch up over some muffins, and Fern asks Alma about her work as a midwife and whether she's birthed any babies under the red moon. Alma responds, no, because the Ashari have learned techniques that sustain labor so that a baby is not born under a red moon. And look, I'm just gonna say this, as someone who has had a baby, sure. Just hold it in, I guess. The group asks Alma what Orym was like as a child, and she happily reminisces.
He's always been a sweet little boy.
That's how I think of him.
He's been a handsome, stoic, very physically active child.
Oh yeah, was he like a captain of the football team?
I am a bit of a mama's boy.
She also brings out a bunch of his old baby clothes and sort of passes them around. And yeah, I gotta admit, I never thought before about how tiny halfling babies might be. Before they leave, Chetney gives Alma a wooden statue of Orym that he has carved, and it turns out that quite a few of Orym's childhood toys were made by Chetney.
Oh, what's that say on the side?
Yeah.
What's it say on the side?
It says C-pop. Oh, you branded it. Okay.
That's not
One of one. One of one.
Yes.
That's just like your old toy.
Toss on my phone.
You still have those, right? You didn't toss them out, did you?
No, of course I have them. She goes back into the satchel and pulls out this small like wooden eagle that's flying with its wings out, and the wings are somewhat like jointed, and it has C-pop on the side.
You had C-pop toys growing up?
Wait a minute. I'm putting two and two together.
Whoa.
Wait a minute. Orym just starts looking at the bottom of all these wooden statues. Does it say C-pop on all of these?
On 4 of them.
You're so prolific.
Wait, is Chetney Orym's dad?
I am very grateful to have a gift to remind me of my son by such a handsome man.
Oh, thank you.
Cool, it's cool.
Following this visit, they go and see a blacksmith called Torth, who Orym gets to make some armor for him, and then they visit Fanny Z, a tailor who Ashton commissions a new outfit from.
I'm going through a bit of a life crisis at the moment.
Oh, goodness, welcome to the party.
I had a funny feeling.
They then meet up with Maeve, who gives them a large bag to put the blue flowers in, as well as some healing potions. And you know there's trouble ahead when the DM starts handing out healing potions. Stepping through the tree, they arrive in the Grey Valley, and it lives up to its name with grey skies above, dark trees, and ashy, muddy soil. Everything feels like it's in grayscale, and there's sort of this forbidding atmosphere. The Grey Valley was the site of a battle during the Scattered War, where Trist Drazig struck a deal with Graztchar, the demon prince of Indulgence, a lesser idol who granted Drazig terrible powers to help him win the war. However, the opposing forces of Zan Taldore were too powerful and he was defeated. Yes, that is the Zan Taldore that would then go on to help establish Taldore and was the first sovereign. The mark of Trist Drazig's deal and those cursed powers still exist though in the Grey Valley, which is why it's sort of this cursed landscape. They take a moment to survey the valley, and Orym with a 30 perception check doesn't see any blue flowers anywhere, so FCG casts divination to ask the Changebringer which way they should go.
One of the hands reaches out from your periphery and plucks the coin.
Oh, cool.
And all the rest of you watch the coin, full spin. And it just stops. As it holds there in place, it falls onto its side in a western direction.
Amazing!
Chetney, with his wolfish nose, can smell the scent of fiendish creatures, so they move very cautiously westward. Lordna sends out Pate to scout ahead, and speaking of Lordna, she has some beautiful new character art. I absolutely love this new look for Lordna, especially her little birdhouse backpack. Like I said, I really want one. As they continue, Chetney finds an old rusted helm in the dirt, likely a remnant of the battle long ago, although they never really ascertain its age. FCG casts a death ward on Orym just as they hear a shrieking from above.
Yeah. You hear this?
Oh god.
I'm pretty sure these are Gloomstalkers from Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, which have some really fun abilities like a shriek, which can paralyze their enemies. Neat. I've actually been meaning to use these in my home game for ages since I actually painted a couple of their minis. Luckily though, Bell's Hells are being incredibly sneaky thanks to Ashton's Pass Without Trace, and the Gloomstalkers don't notice the group. Chetney continues to scout ahead since Pate has been somewhat useless at perception checks, and hey, it turns out that he's colorblind, I guess.
Don't see any blue, no, don't see any sorry. Sorry.
And Chetney finds an old fire pit. Whilst he's investigating it, he notices that there is like an ashy smell and there are some darker trees that are slightly smoking. On closer examination, these trees are glowing faintly beneath the bark, like they're perpetually burning. They continue westward, fanning out to keep an eye for tracks or traces of the Ashari, and eventually Orym spots some blue flowers in the distance, about 100 feet away, growing in the remnants of an old battlefield. Nearby is a dark, blackened rock surrounded by what looks like obsidian shards. Chetney sneaks down to the flowers and starts to dig them up, but his wolfy senses start tingling, and the group will start to get really nervous, realizing how far away Chetney is, and they begin to move closer. It's at this point that Orym notices two bodies sit up with a lurch, and then they look towards a figure perched up looking down on Chetney. Chetney then looks towards this figure and it stands.
And as it does so, you can see like this like dark red, almost like a skirt that drags onto the ground below it. It puts its hands like up this way and kind of almost plucks its fingers through the air. And those two armored bodies step up.
It's time to roll initiative. Round 1. The two undead are up first and they rush towards Chetney, with one of them grappling him with a nat 20. Getting this up close and personal view, Chetney realizes that these are two members of the Ereshari. Womp womp. FCG is next and he casts Compulsion, forcing them to sort of back off and move away, although one of them is grappling Chetney still and it drags him along with it. Imogen then casts a watery sphere around the fiendish creature, which I'm pretty sure is a beefed up version of a Devourer. This stat block doesn't have the teleporting ability, but it does have all the other abilities. Unfortunately though, the Devourer makes its save so the sphere doesn't restrain it. It then sinks into the ground and reappears right in the middle of the group. It raises its hand and creates a Soul Rend Vortex, which is an ability where creatures in the area have to make a Constitution save, otherwise they take necrotic damage. Ashton goes into a gravity rage, knocking the Devourer prone and smacking it in the face with their hammer. Orym then leaps over Chetney and does a disarming attack on the undead, grappling him, freeing Chetney, and then in this moment Orym also recognizes that yes, they are Ashari.
This is a member of the Ashari.
Oh, no!
This is Turan. You don't know them very well. They were kind of an older scout.
Chetney transforms into his werewolf form and runs towards the Devourer, taking an opportunity attack from the Wight, who tries to reduce his max hit points but fails, a very important detail that will come up again later, and with his woven claws he tears into the Devourer. Fern is next and she casts Aura of Life, which is basically the best spell that you could cast in this situation. It gives everyone within 30 feet of her resistance to necrotic damage, meaning that they only take half, and then their hit point maximum cannot be reduced, which is kind of like the main deal of these Wights. She then looks at the Devourer and says,
Stop it.
I just love Fern so much. Lorna casts Mirror Image on herself and then summons her Hound.
You see this black void start to expand, and it looks like it's starting to peel away Laudna's flesh, exposing her ribcage underneath her skin, and her ribcage starts to expand, and from this like deep depth of black ooze and purple ichor swirling in there, you just see the front of a wolf's head start to push its way out, and it starts to claw its way out. It's like undead, mangy, half skeletal wolf, then just leaps forth out of her chest.
I love that Marisha specifically called back to Delilah's dogs in Legend of Vox Machina, because it really makes sense for her abilities, like in connection with Delilah, and also they're just like, they're so disgusting. The Hound attacks the Devourer as it is still knocked prone, and we go into round 2. Bell's Hells can't have it too easy, of course, and out of the mists come more hideous creatures.
And you watch as from the swampy reaches of the nearby spaces, these other kind of spectral, stretched humanoid figures kind of emerge.
What?
These
Spectral?
These thin wraith-like humanoid figures kind of fill up. You can see their kind of wild, dark hair and these long, spindly fingers. And where the fingers would be, there's like on each hand 12 long tentacles that just kind of reach out and rise.
Like that. No, those will go inside of us.
These terrible grins that peel across the face like a jack-o'-lantern, and they just kind of like...
One of these wraiths attacks Imogen, but she ducks out of the way, and the other attacks Ashton, who uses his reaction to shoot it through a portal 30 feet away. I gotta say, I'm still so desperate to see Ashton's, subclass. Like, I want to see the details, because I love all of these portal teleportation abilities. The third wraith then attacks FCG with a nat 20, but has to re-roll thanks to Laudna's silvery barbs, a truly OP spell. A white then pulls out a longbow, attacking Fern but missing, and the other attacks Orym, who recognizes them as another Ashari. FCG summons his spiritual weapon in the form of a handsaw, landing a nat 20 on the white, but it only does 7 damage. It's always so demoralizing when you roll a nat 20 and then it's like such a low damage amount. Imogen then engulfs one of the undead in her watery sphere, restraining it, and then casts a lightning bolt to the Devourer and one of the wraiths. The Devourer then sinks into the ground again, appearing right behind Fern. Fern gets hit a few more times, but luckily she manages to maintain concentration on her Aura of Life spell, which is excellent because it is proving so useful during this fight. She is getting pretty low in health though. Ashton charges one of the wraiths, and Orym does a bait and switch with Fern to give her some protection. Chetney grapples the Devourer, doing a stack of damage with his claw attacks. Fern then casts Daylight into the chest of the Devourer, and it emanates 60 feet out, and like all of the undead in the area do not like it. Laudna then casts Shocking Grasp into the watery sphere, doing extra damage and killing the wraith inside as well as the other one. Her hound then chomps down on the Devourer. Round 3. The remaining undead all attack Fern, and she is knocked unconscious, finally ending the Aura of Life spell. Luckily though, FCG is up next, and he casts a Mass Cure Wounds, which brings Fern back up again. Imogen then uses a Witch Bolt on the Devourer, and...
How do you want to do this?
One of the watery sphere?
One of the watery sphere had been damaged previously.
I mean, keep your blow dryer away from your tub, kids.
Yeah. The party then deal with the remaining undead, and the battle is over. Orym looks at the remains of the Devourer and sees the remnants of a soul within it.
But you do see within that bundle this faint, fading energy, this spiritual shred remaining.
I just reach my hand out toward it with an open palm. Try to give one last living contact.
As you hold your hand out, the energy seems to expand, and you see the small mote of soul begin to take the transparent form of a young elven figure. She reaches out and touches her hand to yours and looks to your eyes, smiles, silently nods, looks in the direction you were traveling, and then vanishes.
This is from the Devourer's ability Imprison Soul, where it teleports a downed humanoid inside its ribcage where it is trapped, which is like so gross to think about. And the art for this monster is just disgusting. I thought for sure that this was going to be Orym's sister, but it is another member of the Ashari. Whew, I mean, RIP to that person, but I was just very relieved that it wasn't Orym's sister. They take some time to lay the Ashari members to rest, and to recover somewhat they take a short rest, and that is where the episode ends. And oof, that was a pretty intense battle, and thank God for Ashley Johnson coming in clutch with that spell. Bell's Hells only have about a third of the flowers they need, so they're going to be spending some more time in the Grey Valley next episode, plus they still gotta find Orym's sister and the other Air Ashari. Tal'Dorei Reborn doesn't have too much info about the Grey Valley in it, it's only like a paragraph or so, but it does have one interesting plot hook that I wonder if we will see it all next episode. At the center of the valley is a Wraith Root, which guards a dark treasure. Perhaps it's a treasure that could help the group in their fight against lewdness. As always, let me know your thoughts about this episode in the comments. I would also like to say a big thank you to my patrons who help me make these videos. If you'd like to support the channel and get exclusive behind the scenes content, you can sign up at patreon.com/Luboffin. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Candela Obscura is airing next week, and if you need a refresher on what happened in episode 2, you can watch my full breakdown right here. Bye!